Beach closures, impaired waters, algae blooms, all things you don't want to hear about living in the Great Lakes state.
And no matter where you are in Michigan, you're never more than 6 miles from a body of water. TV5 investigative reporter Meredith St. Henry has been following a topic that's been circulating Lansing for decades: septic systems and how they impact our waters. So Meredith, what did you find?
Nearly 1.5 million of homes in Michigan have a septic system. They're underground, out of sight, and most likely out of mind. These systems are important and costly, and if not installed or maintained properly, can lead to big problems.
A picture-perfect view.
Michigan is an extremely unique place to live. We have 90% of the nation's and 20% of the world's available fresh water supply.
A state filled with natural resources.
Obviously, Michigan borders 4 out of 5 of the Great Lakes.
Our streams and our lakes are most valuable assets that we have.
It's important for all of us.
I'm a farmer. I depend on the water to irrigate my crops.
But are we protecting what makes Michigan so special?
There are multiple incidents of water quality issues on a lot of our rivers.
9,000 miles that we know are impaired.
This is why it's very important for us to get our infrastructure right.
We have, as a society, kicked this can down the road now for more than 3 decades.
And for a state that, sort of brands itself pure Michigan, I think that's very problematic.
Michigan is the only state in the country without a statewide septic code.
A septic system is a way for households to deal with their waste from their toilets, washing machines, kitchen sinks, and all of the water that they're using if they're not connected to a sewer line that goes to a water treatment plant.
Based on the 1978 Public Health Code, each local health department decides permit requirements for the installation of septic systems in their jurisdiction.
In 1978, septic systems were really considered to be temporary, subject to failure, and they were really intended to fill a gap. We estimate approximately 25% of local regulations are out of date. They really don't provide the tools that the health departments need to be able to issue permits that can focus on the treatment of wastewater.
Some health departments in Michigan are doing a really good job.
Our code requires a certain separation from water table for septic systems, especially on new builds. There's set standards for the sizing based on the soil, based on the water table conditions, based on the number of bedrooms in the house.
However, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy estimates most of the homes in the state were built before 1978, when there were no regulations.
There are many times there are places that indeed have straight pipes that dump directly into the water or directly onto the land, which is right near the water.
We have a family cottage up in all gray on the water right here. And we're about 30 feet above the water. About 7 years ago, we found out our cap was busted, so we had to buy a new cap for the septic tank. When the guy came out, he put a big light down in the hole. We didn't have a septic tank. Our place was built in 1919.
So if we had an inspection program in the state, that would be a means to locate these systems that are failing and then work towards fixing them or replacing them.
There's been a number of studies done to figure out the impact of failing or malfunctioning septic systems. In the early 2010s, Michigan State University tested 64 streams across the Lower Peninsula.
They analyzed for the DNA from fecal pathogens. So these would be microbes that are actually in the human digestive tract and then make their way into the water, which hopefully you wouldn't find that DNA.
To their surprise, they found human DNA fecal pathogens in all 64 streams sampled.
The strongest association that came out was the number of septic systems in the upstream watershed.
It's a public health threat because if you're swimming or recreating in water, you can certainly get sick if there's E. coli. Sewage carries 100 different viruses. And then from a more environmental perspective, too many nutrients that are found in waste, animal or human, can contribute to algae blooms, and those deprive the water of oxygen. They're really unsightly.
In 2018, the Saginaw Bay Watershed Initiative Network did a study looking at failing septic systems in the 5 counties surrounding Saginaw Bay.
About 1.26 billion gallons of untreated sewage is drifting off into Saginaw Bay and the Saginaw Bay system every year. That's enough to fill about 2,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Only 10 out of the 83 counties in Michigan have a time of sale or transfer on-site wastewater inspection program. Isabella County is one of them.
In the first 5 years of the program, we actually identified 31 homes that had a direct discharge to either a river, a ditch, a field tile, and that would account for anywhere from 3.4 million to 5 million gallons of sewage a year that isn't going directly into our waterways.
Over the last few decades, there have been several attempts at legislation for a statewide septic code. That would include framework for septic inspections across the state.
How many solids are in the bottom of the tank? So we're basically pulling a column out here and just looking.
We would really like to see the inspections be on a periodic interval, so not tied to the sale of the home, because we will absolutely miss systems like, for example, lake cottages that stay in families for generations.
The last attempt at legislation was in 2024. There were bills in the House and Senate.
This was, we believe, one of the most comprehensive and well-written pieces of legislation on an on-site statewide septic system code that we've seen.
Senate Bills 299 and 300 were an amendment to the Public Health Code, sponsored by Senator Sam Singh.
What we've done is kept in some of the most critical components that I think move towards a statewide septic code. We create the committee that will set up all the standards for the entire state. We create the database that will help all our local governments and health departments gauge where all the septic systems are at. And probably the most important element of this is that we've created a set of risk factors that would be required to have an evaluation.
And it was really recognizing that septic systems are a cost-effective long-term option to treat wastewater, meet our water quality goals, only if they're constructed properly and managed properly. So managed being that key component.
The bills passed in the Senate, but never got voted on in the House. Senators Joe Bellino, Ed McBroom, and Kevin Daly all voted against the bills, wanting to keep it up to each county.
The locals take care of the problem, and without a mandate from the state, then that's where it should happen.
This bill is not only an overreaction, but is an overreach.
The health departments currently, they're hindered in doing their work based on what their current sanitary code says. So we want to be able to support our local health department partners, provide them with the tools and the methods.
The bills could get reintroduced this year.
A tremendous amount of work done in the last year with a lot of stakeholders to try to get that to a point where multiple entities agreed to it or actually supported it, so we are ready.
The science is strong and clear on this point, and we know what's going on. What we need is the political will to actually step toward a solution.
Maybe something we can get done in the next 4 years, so 2 years, I guess, so yeah.
A septic system is expensive. On average, they can range from $10,000 to $40,000. Eagle has started a septic replacement loan program, and Bay County has a revolving loan fund to help their residents fix failing systems. People I talk to stress the importance of maintaining your septic system. Make sure you get it pumped and cleaned every 3 to 5 years.